High tech, low tech, or no tech. Through our hobbies and our passions, the geek comes out in us all.
The world's of geekdom.
I am a geek and I'm proud of it.
Geeks.
Geeks unite.
Well, let's get those nerds! Nerds! No!
Did you just call me a nerd?
Not all geeks are nerds.
Yeah.
This is Geek Therapy Radio.
What do we wait for?
And now your mental curator, Johnny Hamburger.
Welcome to Geek Therapy Radio. I am your mental curator, as always, Johnny Hamburger, and I am stoked. I have said on shows before that sometimes I just get twitching in my britches because of the guests I have on the show, these awesome guests, and my awesome guest this week, hey guys, it's Austin. Austin, how you doing?
Great, man. That was actually pretty good.
Yeah, you know what? In radio, I find myself kind of impersonating people sometimes. Like, I got to do parodies for like other shows, so I got to like act like politicians or different kind of CEOs and stuff. So I've been practicing my "Hey guys."
That's awesome, man. It sounds good.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, so whenever you retire for your channel, I'll take over.
You just jump right in. No one will notice the difference.
Exactly. Just give me your 3 million subs, which, congratulations, by the way. Just the other day, I think you're at 2.9.
Yeah, I think we're almost at 3.2 million right now. Yeah, it's been great lately.
Jiminy Christmas. And not to toot my own horn, but I started my YouTube channel for Geek Therapy Radio a little while ago, and I was hovering. It took me and you could probably add to this, add to the input here. It took me like 2 years to get like 100 subs. And then like last week, I went up to 380. So that's like 280 or so, 200 subs in a week. So my focus is on that growth. Is there anything, there's a lot of people watching this, they're watching on YouTube. If they're listening on the radio too, they probably have YouTube channels. Is there any advice you can give to people that are looking to build their channel beyond, well, I'll let you explain it. What advice would you have for up and coming YouTubers right now?
You've got to have the patience, and you've got to really enjoy it. So it was a similar story for me. It took a long time to get any kind of real traction. Like that first, 500 subscribers, 1,000 subscribers, 10,000 subscribers, so much more difficult than your 3,154th versus 55th. Like it definitely sort of gets easier over time. But I think the important thing for me was it was something I enjoyed doing, even if no one was watching. Mm-hmm. And it was something that it's going to take a while, and I just didn't care because it's like, oh, cool, this is fun, this is cool. Like, oh, I got like 10 subscribers today, awesome, It was just something that I enjoyed doing, even if it wasn't, immediately going to 1 million subscribers day one.
Right, and that applies, I think, to people trying to do podcasts, and even me doing a radio show. This show is on in Houston, 6 million people, and welcome to Texas, by the way. I saw you were in Austin the other day. Yeah. But even in a city of 6 million, when they give you a show, like, I was trying to be cautiously optimistic, I guess. Like, oh, great, I get my show on in 6 million people, actual radio, and I could do podcasts and do. It still takes time. It still takes time to build that audience, but I'm very happy that over the past year and a half, it is growing, and people are really are digging the message that we're all geeks about something, and a lot of the time, it's just our geek thing, our hobbies, our passions, our interests that get us through the kind of monotony of life. Some people have a YouTube channel and they gravitate towards that, and they put all their time and energy into that, and that's something that can help them deal with the troubles of life. Some people build cars, some people paint, do all sorts of things. Austin, back a few years ago, I don't know how big your channel was at the time, but you had a little mishap at your apartment, and the YouTube community really, really gathered around you. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Tell that story.
Sure. So this was maybe 4 years or so ago at this point. Mm-hmm. I was late at night, sort of working on a video, sleeping in, and I woke up and there was smoke outside my window. People were running around. And within like 30 minutes of me waking up, the whole apartment building I lived in was just completely burnt to the ground.
Wow.
So that was, it was a little bit of an experience, I guess. But like you said, the YouTube community really rallied around. They completely surprised me. I actually went to go and I stayed with my parents for like a week or so as I was trying to figure out like where I was going to move, what I was going to do. And they tracked down the address. They actually flew out from like LA and from like Toronto to come surprise me with not only like a brand new computer, but just sort of the support of the whole community, everyone coming together and like, hey, like keep making videos, kind of keep going. So that was one of those things that was huge and sort of really not only just sort of helped me get back on my feet, but also more importantly than that, it was so important to kind of have the community come together and sort of show that they supported me and that, we were all in it together and stuff. And I think that was something that was not only really helpful for me, but I feel like that was the beginning of a lot of the collaborations and a lot of the cool stuff that we all started doing together, because we were like, oh, wait, after this one big project, let's do more stuff. And obviously it wasn't to the same degree, but everyone started working together a lot more. Everyone started growing a lot more. It was sort of like the thing that kind of touched off everything.
Yeah. I mean, that's really a wonderful story. And I think my favorite part of that is that, we are more connected than ever in these modern times. We're more connected, but we're more isolated. Do you kind of see what I'm saying? Like we have
Sure.
a million friends online, but maybe not a whole lot of friends in real life. So the big takeaway from that story and your tale was that it gave humanity hope, I think, in that we seem to be increasingly connected, but increasingly kind of separated from each other. But when one of us is in trouble, we still jump to it. We still jump to it to helping each other out. And you had even just other YouTubers you had helping you out there. You had the backing of hundreds of thousands of people that were probably wanting to help out, and you had actual human beings literally driving across the country or wherever to get to you to help out. So it's basically these strangers in the dark corners of the internet. Basically, it's the pixels came off the screen into real life to help out. I'll just say it, a fellow geek. You're a geek like me, aren't you?
Absolutely.
And geeks are sexy. That's what I'm saying. Geeks are sexy now. It's not a derogatory thing anymore. Elon Musk is a geek. So
yeah.
And Tony Stark jumping out of the comics, he's a geek, but he's really cool. It's cool to be a geek now.
Especially if you're a billionaire geek.
Oh yeah, that's
that
all
helps.
We should aspire. Did you see Elon Musk? He said he was going to try to help out the kids in the cave, the Thailand soccer team. Did you hear anything about that?
Yeah, I saw a lot about it.
Yeah.
It seemed cool, though. I don't think it didn't come together in time, right?
It didn't come together in time, and that's kind of my point, and I want your take on it. A lot of people kind of threw Elon Musk under the bus, on social media and stuff, saying, oh, billionaire, calling him a feckless billionaire, meaning all the money in the world couldn't save those kids. What wound up happening was the, Thai officials and the Thai Navy SEALs wound up saving the kids. And I think that is unwarranted. I think that is really, really naive and stupid, because Elon Musk was doing something, and from the get-go, he was saying, I'm going to build a submarine, and I'm going to, first of all, he did the R&D, and he built a prototype in like 24 hours, and then he got it across the world, which is nuts. And he said, I'm just bringing this stuff over here in case it's helpful. He didn't say I'm saving the day. It's just in case it's helpful. So what do you think about that, Austin? Do you think people are being kind of too harsh on him? Maybe trying to make him the evil billionaire capitalist? What do you think about that?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's definitely, I can see that it's not a purely selfless act, right? I mean, he was tweeting about it the whole time.
Yeah.
Everyone's like giving him all this good publicity. Like, I mean, it's not like he's just doing it for absolutely no gain at all.
True.
But also, I don't think it's like him sort of over here being an evil billionaire, like, oh, excellent, the PR spin, this will make it totally useful. Like, I don't know. I kind of see both sides. I lean a little bit more toward it's not a big deal. Like, he was just trying to help out. And yeah, he was getting a little bit of a shout out and a little bit of publicity along the way, whatever. I think lots of people were doing that. So I don't know. To me, it doesn't really bother me that much, just because it seems like if all he was about was just going for the PR spin, there are easier ways of doing it than actually building a submarine and getting it shipped over that fast. Like, I don't know. But Elon Musk he's an interesting guy. Very
interesting, to say the least. And that's right. He definitely was getting a little bit of PR. And in Tesla, you have a Tesla, don't you? Or no, you got an Audi RS3. Did you ever have a Tesla?
No. I've done a lot of videos on Teslas, but never actually owned one.
We're Audi brothers, by the way. I've got an S5. It's a 2010.
Oh, nice.
2010.
Nice.
4.2 V8.
Oh, the V8?
The what?
Yeah.
The V8, the 4.2, buddy. If you're ever in Houston, I mean, your RS3 is probably quicker. And, now that I say this, it sounds kind of dumb for me to offer you to drive my S5, because you just recently got out of an R8, doing some tests on it. How did that go, by the way?
Oh, it was great. So that was actually why I was in Austin a few weeks ago. I went out with Audi, and basically they let me do the full circuit of the Americas track day. So they actually offer this as something that even if you're not an owner of Audis, you can go and pay. There's different like classes based on like whether you want to do it for like a half day, if you want to do the full track and everything. But it's not like crazy expensive. And what you can do is you can actually get seat time in a variety of their high performance vehicles, including the R8 on the full F1 circuit of the Americas track.
Awesome.
And I gotta say, it's an experience to like be in this V10 powered supercar. You come around that last corner, you see all the grandstands, which of course are totally empty, but you just come around that, you see the start finish line, you're like, wow, I feel like a race car driver right now. It's so cool.
Before we get out of this segment, Austin, can you stick around for one more segment?
Absolutely.
Cool. What's the fastest you got to? Because Indy courses tend to be a little faster, aren't they? So how fast did you get up to in that R8 V10 Plus?
In the R8 V10 Plus, I was able to hit 145 on the back straight.
You know what? You see, the crazy thing is, you probably hit 145 in no time. Like my first car went from 0 to 6. It was a Volkswagen Bug, a '74 Beetle. 0 to 6.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, dude. I've had two. I want another Beetle. I like cars. I get the feeling that you like cars too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Car geeks like car geeks. So my '74 Beetle did 0 to 60 in a weekend, and you probably did 0 to 45, 0 to 145 in probably less than 30 seconds, I'm guessing.
So the crazy thing is, I think it was like 20 seconds on the straight.
Jeez.
The crazy thing is that you can't do the full length of it because there's instructors on track, so you have to brake after them.
Mm-hmm.
So I did one lap where they actually were like kind of everyone went away, and all the safety people were like, okay, cool, and like they disappeared. And with the instructor driving, we did 162 on that back straight.
Jeez.
So you can, there's so much speed in that car, and you're going like 160 miles an hour, full right on the brakes. You're like 160 down to like 40 in like 3 seconds. It's crazy.
So it melted your face a little bit.
Oh, it was great. It was totally awesome.
Awesome. Well, Austin, stick around for a second. We're going to get into the next segment here. Listeners, if you're listening to the podcast, this is going to be pretty instant. If you're listening to the broadcast here on KPRC 950, we'll be back in just a couple minutes. Got to pay some bills around here, but we'll see you in just one moment. Who among us doesn't love great beer, amazing food, and arcade games? That's why I'm stoked beyond geek belief to tell you about Kung Fu Saloon, located at 5317 Washington Avenue, right here in Houston. Kung Fu Saloon on Washington Avenue has the geek trinity covered, and then some. Of course they have the most excellent beer on tap, the nommiest food off the grill, and the vintage arcade games we love. But you can also get your Tay-Tay on with karaoke, your super fan on with televised sports, and your rug cut to the best music and DJs on Washington Avenue. In addition to arcade games, get your competitive fix with Giant Jenga, Giant Connect 4, 3 skee-ball lanes, shuffleboard, and foosball. Get your drink, food, game, karaoke, and dance on. Or step to Street Fighter 2 with me and get your geek fanny served. Hadouken! Kung Fu Saloon, 5317 Washington Avenue. Visit www.kungfusaloonhouston.com for more details and dress code info. Welcome back to Geek Therapy Radio. Austin Evans is still my guest. YouTube channel just broke. He's sitting at about 3.2 million. I almost said billion. That'd be pretty cool.
I'd be a few years away from that.
Yeah. If it took 2 years to go from 0 to 100 subscriptions, how long is it going to take to a billion? Anyways, that's actually kind of what I wanted to touch on here, Austin. Has it become more difficult for people to build a YouTube channel after the whole, we don't have to get into specifics of it, after the whole Logan Paul incident and adpocalypse and everything? What has been your experience as a YouTuber who's kind of weathered it all? What's it like to have a channel right now? Is it easier or harder, or what's going on?
Yeah, that's a hard question. I think it's different for everyone. I think personally for myself, I haven't really seen a lot of negative impact. Tech content is usually pretty safe, so it's not super controversial. It's not like vlogging or any of the kind of the more sensational stuff out there. So it's actually been pretty straightforward for me. I haven't had a lot of issues or anything. I think there's definitely some people who aren't super happy with a lot of YouTubers, and I think they put a lot of YouTubers in like one giant bucket of like, oh, they're just a bunch of attention-seeking people and this and that. But I don't know. I think as far as starting your own channel today, I think now is as good a time as any. I mean, I definitely had the advantage of starting early, where there was far fewer like sort of people competing, and it was much easier to sort of get some eyeballs. But at the same time, there were a lot fewer people watching YouTube. No one really had anything figured out, so that was something that the first 3, 4, maybe even 5 years of me doing it was just kind of understanding the platform, making hundreds and hundreds of videos to just try to get like, hey, what do people want to watch? Whereas today, the playbook's already been written. It's not that difficult to understand and at least get started. Obviously, it is very difficult to get an audience, but I feel like a lot of the stuff that I spent my early days on has already been figured out, and you can sort of hit the ground running. So I honestly think that there's lots of people who are starting today who a year, 2, 3 years from now are going to be just as big as the Logan Pauls of the world.
Yeah. And I think back to what you said earlier, the key to building a YouTube channel, and listeners, this is for anything, building any sort of presence, even if you have a small business, is first you got to do it because you love it. You have to get some sort of enjoyment out of it. One thing I tell people, because I play guitar and I used to teach a little bit, I said the first things first is you have to want to do it. You have to love playing guitar, because practicing is going to be so much easier. Actually doing it's going to be so much easier if you have like the drive and the love in your heart to do it. So if you're building a YouTube channel, first have the drive to do it. 2, always be working on improving it. That's something I'm doing here with the radio show every week. How can I make it better? And I think as long as, and keep making videos, keep making content, keep making podcasts, keep putting stuff out there. So if you have those three things lined up, the passion, the drive, what did I say? Putting out the content, and did I say 3 things or 2 things? Oh my gosh, I'm brain farting. Just have the drive and passion. It makes things way easier to do anything in life when you're actually love to do it. Austin, I want to talk about a couple things here, a couple tech things here, and maybe a couple car things. You do these videos where you say how to waste, or how to spend like how to waste like $413.27 on Amazon. What is your favorite and what is your least favorite thing ever from all those videos put together?
Man. So the way that series works is that my main camera guy, Ken, he's the one who picks all the items. So when I start that video, I have no idea what's coming. Every once in a while, I walk around the corner and I see him like hiding a box and I get a glimpse. But like I do my best to avoid knowing anything about it, which makes it fun because sometimes he gets some really crazy stuff. I remember some memorable stuff. It wasn't even like, it didn't seem that crazy when you first looked at it, but there's this thing called the Roboraptor. Mm-hmm. And it was like I think it was like $60 or something, but it's this sort of remote control little dinosaur toy. And at first I was looking at it like, oh, this is dumb. You waste our money, doing the video. But then I didn't realize it was motion sensing. So I got like right up in its face and I was like poking it, trying to get it to work. And like it like screamed at me and like went at me. And like that was the most scared I've been on camera. I just totally was not expecting some stupid toy to like actually come after me. Yeah. So that was definitely one of those moments. At one point we had an $80 ball bearing that was like 25 pounds.
That's my favorite thing, real quick. I love that thing. Go on.
It looked like a cannonball or something. Yeah. Like I pull out, it's all oiled up. So like I pull it out of this box. It's like dripping with like oil. I'm like, what is this weird smell? There's been some weird stuff, but there's also been some good things. But I feel like it's always easier to remember the crazy stuff. Where I'm just like, are you serious? Is this really what we're doing a video on right now?
Yeah. I like that ball. That was my favorite thing. I don't know, something about the smooth like roundness of the ball bearing. I was like, that's not a stupid buy. That's something cool.
So ridiculous. So weird.
So next question, and we'll wrap it up here because I know your time is precious. What's your 2 dream cars, old car and new car?
Oh man. Old car is definitely actually a Volkswagen Karma Ghia.
Yes. Holy crap, yeah. Are you my brother?
Yeah.
My goodness.
My aunt had one when I was growing up, and man, I wanted that thing so bad. It was like a black one, like 4-speed. Dude, it was so cool.
Nice.
I remember my dad drove me around when I was like 4 or 5, and I'm like, yep, I just want one of these in my life.
Convertible?
No, it was a coupe.
The coupe looks better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That was one of those cars where it was so cool. And yeah, as like a 6-year-old, I'm like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. Oh gosh, Carmagia. I'm gonna put a picture up on for the YouTube video. People watching on YouTube, I'm gonna put a picture of the Carmagia. It's spectacular.
It's a unique looking car. Yeah, like I don't think there's anything else, like I can't just say like, oh, it looks like this or that. Like it's a very unique, different looking car, which I feel like
Timeless.
most people probably never even heard of.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Timeless.
As far as a new car, that's tough, man. I mean, I feel like that R8 was pretty nice.
Yeah, that's my dream car, R8.
Just gonna throw that one out there. Yeah, it was interesting driving it because especially driving it on the track, it didn't feel that scary. I feel like you hear a lot of people who drive like these exotic cars and they're always talking about like, oh, I'm going to kill myself in it. It's so scary. It's so fast.
Right.
But driving that R8, I mean, it was pretty much immediately like, 5 minutes of doing a couple laps and I felt totally comfortable, doing crazy speeds and throwing it through corners and trusting the brakes. Like it felt like just a big fast Audi, not some crazy Lamborghini that wants to like spin out every 5 seconds. It was really sort of, it made me feel confident, made me feel like a good driver. And I think that's always a good sign in a car.
Absolutely. Austin, on the way out here, what advice would you have? Everyone has their geek thing. What advice would you have for us fellow geeks? And remember, we're all geeks about something. All of us are geeks. When times get tough, like after your apartment fire, what advice would you have for people to kind of help them get through?
Oh, wow. I think it's important to not give up on things you're passionate about.
Yes.
I think that's something that's been something that I've tried to live by, for as long as I can remember. I think there's always going to be obstacles. There's always going to be issues in your life. But I think a lot of what makes you the person you are is how you're able to handle those, right? Like, I mean, when the good times are good, of course it's easy, like you're having fun, everything's great. But I mean, everyone hits bad points in their life. Everyone hits sort of tough times. And I think that's sort of the moment where you can really sort of realize, hey, look, this is something I'm really passionate about. I want to keep doing it, or, whatever the case is. But I think that those are the times where things really sort of shine through and you can really kind of understand like, oh, you know what, this really is something that's, I'm passionate about. This is really something worth sacrificing for. This is really something that I want to do versus, oh, this is just something I tried that didn't work out. Like I feel like those times where things are tough, that's where you really kind of understand whether whatever it is that you're pursuing is going to be worth it or not.
Man, I couldn't have put it better myself. Austin, thank you so much for being on Geek Therapy
Absolutely,
Radio
man.
this week.
Well, thank you for having me.
Welcome back to Geek Therapy Radio. Did you enjoy that interview with Austin Evans? Austin, if you're listening to this, I sent you, I want to say I sent you 2 or 3 emails since I started the show. I'm not sure. I don't remember. As you heard the last segment, I'm kind of bad with numbers. Did I say 2 things or 3 things? It was 3 things. Anyways, yeah, great interview. I hope you got a little bit inspired from that. That is the aim of Geek Therapy Radio. I'm Johnny Hamburger, by the way, your mental curator. Welcome back into Geek Therapy Radio. One of the things I say on the show is that we're all geeks about something. You've heard that ad nauseum. That is what I preach here on the show. And that I don't get very political on the show. Rarely, if ever, do I even mention anything politically on the show. Because like I say, and like I firmly believe, whether you're liberal or conservative, we're all geeks about something. We all love Legos and Star Wars and art and cars and music and remote control airplanes and whatever you're into. We're all geeks about something. Doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. But a story came across today that kind of piqued my interest. And it's worth a little bit of a discussion. And I don't think this segment's going to air on YouTube, but if you're listening to the podcast here on an app that lets you comment below, then comment below. I think Spreaker allows you to, or maybe you want to go to the Geek Therapy Radio Facebook page, or maybe just email me geektherapy@iheartmedia.com, or send me a line any way. Twitter, it's Geek Therapy KPRC on Twitter. Geek Therapy Radio on Instagram. Doesn't matter. Well, it does matter. I'm just saying there's multiple ways to get at me because I'm gonna touch on net neutrality a little bit. There might have been some regular listeners to the show. There might be some regular listeners to the show who maybe wondered why I haven't spoken more about net neutrality. And the reason why I haven't really gotten into it is because it's political. At this moment, it's kind of a political hot topic. And like I say, my show is not a political show by nature. But I think there's an aspect of net neutrality that bears discussion here. So let's just get into it. I'll just say, Trump's Supreme Court prick. Oh, that was a Freudian slip. I'm trying to stay apolitical on here. Trump's Supreme Court pick. Brett Kavanaugh has... I don't want to... Has interesting... I'll just say it. Worrisome views on net neutrality. And again, I'm trying to stay apolitical because, how he votes on stuff is whatever. And listeners, I don't care who you vote for. I really do not care what political party you endorse, even if you're libertarian. I don't care. All I care about is if you're a good person and you affect your immediate world to the best of your ability in a good way, and you don't live in fear watching 24-hour news. On a side note, I wonder if the detriment to people's lives is more caused by the worry of changing policy than actual changing of policy. Let that sink in for a minute. Do you think you have a sucky life because you're more worried about potential policy change? Or is your life actually affected horribly by actual policy change? Which is true. That can happen, of course. If policy change happens, it can affect your life. Absolutely. But living in constant fear and worry about potential change? We have nothing to fear but fear itself. Who said that? Anyways, back to Kavanaugh's argument. He argued last year that net neutrality violates the First Amendment rights of internet service providers because it prevents them from exercising control over internet content, editorial control over internet content. So this is the purpose of this segment. This is the thought exercise here. That is suspect to me. You know why? Okay, when you go to your job, yes, you absolutely... Free speech is only protected by the government, not your employer. You cannot go into your job and start saying hate speech or saying stupid stuff or even cussing. You can get fired for what you say at your job. That is not the First Amendment. First Amendment only protects you from your government, not your employer. So Kavanaugh's argument that net neutrality violates the First Amendment rights of the ISP, this is thinking of the ISP as a private company, which it is, as a private employer. That is true. Here's the rub with this. Here's the catch, though. In many areas, internet service providers are like mini monopolies. In some areas of your city or in some entire cities, there's only one game in town. For instance, it might be Comcast or AT&T or whatever, and you can't get another provider at your house, in your neighborhood, in your town or in your city. It's one pipe of information coming into your house. So to say that net neutrality infringes on their First Amendment right to censor things, basically what he's saying that it's okay for your ISP, I keep touching the mic, it's okay for your ISP to censor the content that comes into your house if it goes against their guidelines, their company's guidelines. And that's true for a private company. If you work at Best Buy, you can't go in there and start saying the N-word. You'll get fired. And that's what Kavanaugh's saying, that AT&T, for instance, in your neighborhood, they can limit content they disagree with for any reason from coming into your house, whether or not you want to access it. And again, the rub there is that these ISPs are like mini monopolies. It's the only source of information coming into your house. So let's say you lean one way politically, and you want to read another opposing political party's opinion on something, which you should do anyways. The only way to get a better picture of what's actually going on is it's pretty hard to escape bias. So you have to watch Fox News just as much as you watch MSNBC, and then you have to form your own opinion about it. I know, God forbid, right? God forbid we do a little research. It's just way easier. It gets more of an endorphin rush just to stay entrenched with whatever biases confirms our beliefs. I understand that. But it's a tricky road we go down when potentially you won't be able to get a differing opinion in front of your eyes and ears. If, let's just say theoretically, I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit. Let's say there's a Christian ISP. I don't know if one even exists, but let's say the Westboro Church has an ISP. The Westboro Church is a internet service provider, and I'm using the word Christian to describe the Westboro Church loosely because Westboro Church is doing Christianity wrongly. I don't think Jesus is going to come back and be like, yeah, Westboro, you totally hating people. That's exactly what I died for. Anyways, let's say Westboro Baptist Church had an ISP, and they're the only game in town, and they don't want you watching Big Bang Theory or Bill Maher or anything from Michael Moore or anything like that. Anything they think is too liberal or doesn't align with their corporate policy. So it really is, it's a tricky road we're going down here. I wish people would understand or at least consider that let's use an extremely right-wing Christian, for example. If that's your thing, that's your thing. That's fine. But consider this: if you're wanting to ban evolution from being taught in the school, let's just use it as hypothetical. If they can ban what you want, that means they can ban what they want. It's an all or nothing thing. You can't limit free speech in one way or another because it doesn't align with your sensibilities. Because if you get your way, that means they can get their way. So basically, putting a muzzle on your opponent is putting a muzzle on yourself. That's why free speech needs to be protected. That's why I think in terms of what ISPs can or can't allow access to from their for their services, it's a little more tricky than that with free speech. It's an all or nothing thing. And maybe ISP should be allowed, like they were, an exemption. Like if someone wants to go on YouTube and watch a video about Nazi ideology, it shouldn't be banned. Mein Kampf shouldn't be banned. For the love of dear God, I'm not advocating any of that. I'm just saying, if you can ban Mein Kampf, you can ban the Bible. If you can ban Mein Kampf, you can ban Darwin. It's all or nothing. It's all or nothing, and that's something that it's just food for thought. But I really want to know what you think. Really want to know what you think about this. I'm Johnny Hemberger. I am your mental curator. We're going to wrap up this segment. We'll be right back with one more segment here on Geek Therapy Radio. Again, what do you think? Email me, geektherapy@iheartmedia.com. Or, the easiest way, geektherapyradio.com. I just changed the website up, made it a little bit more simple. Geektherapyradio.com is the best way to get in touch with me, see some cool stuff, click some cool things, read some cool blogs, links to the blog on KPRC, KTBZ The Buzz, and Sunny 99.1 KODA. But right now you're listening to KPRC 950 AM, or you're listening to the podcast. Either way, we'll be right back in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Geek Therapy Radio. Johnny Hemberger, your mental curator. I'm going to do a quick little thingy here about the new Microsoft Surface Go, which is aimed to compete directly with the Apple iPad. And the Surface Go starts at... it ships in August, by the way. You can get this in August, so in a couple weeks here. But it's really cool. It's the first time... I guess the Surface RT tried to be a cheap Microsoft tablet, and the Surface RT sucks. Don't ever buy one. There's a reason why they aren't really around anymore. Anyways, so the Microsoft Surface Go actually has some decent specs, but I say that with a caveat. The $399 model, just avoid it. Just skip it. It's 64 gigs, and you're like, well, 64 gigs, that's tiny, but, for $400, hold on. It's 64 gigs of eMMC memory. It's terrible. And 4 gigabytes of RAM, which is not terrible, but it's just not really enough. What you really want to do is get in the door for $550. That's 8 gigs and 128 gigabytes of NVMe solid-state storage. Oh, $550, that still sounds reasonable for a good 10-inch Microsoft Surface. Well, hold on again, because a keyboard's going to cost you another $100. And that's where they're going to get you with these accessories. So to get in the door with a good investment, I think, in a Microsoft Surface Go, you're going to be spending around $650. You're going to be spending $550 for the model with 8 gigs and 128 gig NVMe. I would probably go up a little bit to the 256 gig myself. But that being said, you're going to be spending around $650, $700 for a good Microsoft Surface Go. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'm not even going to say it's bad. I've got a Surface 3, and I almost hate myself how much I love it. You've heard on Geek Therapy Radio, I narc on Intel for being so expensive. But now that I have a Surface 3 that I got used a year or so ago, I got it used for $300 or $400. It is such a high quality piece of hardware, and it works really well. It's a road dog. It never malfunctions. I know there might be limited cases where someone has a Surface and it does malfunction, but it's Mac quality. I understand why the price is the way it is. So I am interested in the Surface Go. But I don't want to, $650, $700, whatever. I just wanted to mention the Surface Go real quick. In the studio right now, today, the sun's setting. I have a gentleman who's just itching to talk on the mic.
Drum roll, please.
What is your name, sir?
Hello, everyone. Hello, geeks. My name is Niko Scomportis. I am a fellow producer here with my good friend Johnny here at iHeartMedia. And just clocked in and downed my first cup of coffee. So we're locked and loaded, Johnny. We're ready to go.
Yeah, Niko actually took over for my old shift. I moved into Justin's old shift, so I worked my, full-time gig over at KTRH, which is 12 p.m. to... Did I put a play next event? I did. Mm-hmm. 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. And Niko slid into the... Slid all up in my DMs.
I think I have
8 p.m. to 4 a.m.
Yes, and that is a lot of people. Whenever they freak out whenever I tell them I work 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. You know, they're like, wow, you must work really, really, really hard trying to stay up those nights. And I always tell them two things. One, you get used to it.
Yeah.
And secondly, I get to wake up at 2 p.m. like a stripper. So
yeah. Doesn't Matt Thomas over on Sport Talk 790, I think, is one of his opening lines for his shows, "Good morning, strippers."
Yeah,
he comes on in the afternoon.
He says it. I love it when he does it emphatically too, where he's like, "Good morning, strippers." It's fantastic. If I happen to wake up before 12:06, I think the show starts p.m. I always like to turn on my radio and listen to him say that. I like to think that he's kind of subtweeting me in a way verbally.
Our sister station 790, I also listen on my way in, but I'm cruising in here, you know, between 11 a.m. and noon. So, and if Greg Cook and Andy Kalu, and it just gets me up to date on. I already know what's going on in sports. And
they do a lot of NFL. Greg and
they
Andy.
do. They're ex-NFL players. Like they're pro.
Yeah,
like,
understandably
they're
so.
legit, and they're still massive human beings. I'm always walking in every day when they're walking out, and they're just two giant towers.
Yeah.
Like, hello, sirs.
It's like, just lower your gaze. It's like, please don't eat me.
Exactly. But they're super cool. Like, they're super nice. So, anyways, the reason I listen to 790 on my way in is because, you know, I know coming into KTRH, I'm about to be just inundated and bombarded for 8 hours with straight up politics. I come in and I run Rush and then Hannity and then Michael Berry and then Mark Levin. Of those four, Berry is the most fun, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Berry's based out of here, and Michael, I know he talks about a lot of politics, but if you pay attention to, you know, Rush and Hannity and Levin, Berry is kind of the odd one out. People would assume that, oh, he loves Trump. Conservative talk radio, he loves Trump. No.
Yeah, and
he doesn't hate Trump either. He pisses people off because he doesn't go one way or the other.
Yeah, like during the election, I remember, you know, the nickname Trumpkins was one of his favorites, and it was one that I always liked to use because I was, you know, I don't mean to get I'm not getting
we
political.
don't get to. I did a whole thing in net neutrality a segment ago. So, but I try to keep kind of middle.
Yeah, of course.
Anyways.
And it's just like it's looking at things objectively, and I think, you know, that's what Michael does a great job of. And it's those bigger names that you hear, you know, on the same side of conservative radio, where it makes it easy to slap a label on someone, but you know, you got to sit and listen, man.
Yeah, right. I mean, you have to listen for a while. What I find, and it's kind of like, it's good lessons for me and for you, is like where the listeners' heads are at, because they will. Let's use Barry for an example.
All right.
They will listen to. I know people who have listened to Michael Berry for years, and then they tuned in for 30 seconds and caught him, you know, talking for only 30 seconds, but it was something negative about Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I'm not listening to Michael anymore. So that kind of...
He's a dang liberal.
Right, which he isn't.
Yeah,
and then
of
people are like,
course.
he's a dang conservative. Well, you know, not really either. I think he's more libertarian. I'm not going to speak for Michael at all. I'm just saying, people, it's a lesson to me that someone might tune into Geek Therapy Radio, listen to my segment I just did, talking roughly around the subject of net neutrality. Like, net neutrality, this guy is
a fun topic.
Yeah, this guy's a liberal.
Yeah.
Real quick, in the last minute and a half or so, Niko, what are you into? What are you a geek about?
You know, that's a very good question, and I remember hearing you talk about the Surface Pro just a little bit earlier, and I'm going to relate to my whatever I geek about in relation to that Surface Pro, but I'm a huge fan of electronic dance music, or more commonly known as EDM. There's all these different subgenres where, you know, you have people talking about whatever, but my two favorites are house and techno.
Cool.
And a few samples of artists that I always like to follow are very popular. Deadmau5 is one of my top favorites, and then just some other lesser known people, but still, you know, very famous on the electronic stage, are, you know, people like Yotto and Moon Boots, Lane 8, a lot of different labels that I like to follow. And real quick about the Surface, Deadmau5 actually uses like a giant Surface as his DJ controller when he produces music.
Does he use, and I guess I'll edit the segment a little bit. Does he use, what's the big Surface? Oh my gosh.
It's a giant tablet.
Surface Studio, is that what it's called?
It might be.
But it's a giant. It's like 27-inch screen.
Yeah, it's huge. It's like a TV.
It's gorgeous. It's is an
beautiful.
absolute gorgeous. When it first came out, and I don't know if they've updated the specs since it first came out. But when it first came out, it was already outdated. It was so beautiful and everything, and I'm sure it works just fine. But it came out a couple months after the new graphics cards had come out, the GTX 1000 series. So bear in mind, this Surface, I want to say it's called the Surface Studio. It's the most expensive Microsoft Surface you can get, and it's awesome. But the graphics card in it was a GTX 965M when, for a couple months, the new GTX 1060s had been out. The full desktop grade graphics cards have been out, so that was a big head scratcher. You want how much for this? It starts at like $3,000, and it's using
unbelievable,
and it's using last gen. That's what I said at the beginning of the segment. I ripped so hard into Microsoft for coming out with a product that was, granted, very well built, very cool, very sexy, very desirable, charging that kind of money, but offering last gen hardware inside of it. I ripped Microsoft a new one, and I like my Surface 3.
And they're still charging it at like a premium, basically.
Big time premium. And I'm not saying
they have $19.95 on sale for $20.
Right. Yes. So I'm not saying it's not worth it. And again, maybe I'm not recording right now, but maybe they've upgraded the specs a little bit. If they pop a 1060 or a 1070 in there, GTX 1070, and an 8th gen Intel processor, just keep it current generation, at least a 6-core processor, 12 threads.
You're getting what you pay for.
You're really getting what you pay for. Even if they charge a little bit more for that, at least it's current gen, and all the horsepower under the hood would match the looks. I know there will be detractors always, because you can't have a conversation about products like this without having people saying, you could build a gaming PC for a fraction of that price.
Yeah.
Yes, we know that, and I know that, and that's what I would do.
But not everyone's like that.
But I'm just saying, if you're charging $3,500, $4,000, it better have the latest, the current bleeding edge technology.
The latest, the greatest.
And you could take that latest, the greatest. Yes, the people who say just build a gaming PC for a fraction of price. Yeah, for $1,500, you could build a PC with the exact same specs, probably, maybe even less than that. They're about that ballpark. You can build something just as powerful as the Surface Studio. I might be calling it something.
And for,
what I'm talking about.
Cavemen that sit here like me, it's easier said than done when people are like, build a PC. That's why I know people who build PCs, and they'll just so ever friendly build them for me, but I have to buy the parts.
PC, go on YouTube and do PC build. It's Legos now. It's as easy as Legos. Back in the day, it was a lot more difficult.
Man. YouTube University is where it's at.
Yeah. Watch 5 YouTube videos and you're a pro.
I don't mean to go from something so quick like computers to guns, but I bought a 1939 Mosin Nagant 9130 bolt action rifle, and it was coated in cosmoline, and the only way I was able to clean it was by looking it up on YouTube and just taking it apart piece by piece.
I remember you were saying you were cleaning that. And it was very meticulous.
Yeah, lots of small parts that you get to look out for, and bathe them and soak them in these chemicals just to get all that glorious cosmoline off.
That's cool, though. You get to spend a lot of time with something that you bought, something that you're passionate about. I don't really get into a lot of guns on the show.
That's for Gun Talk on KPRC.
There's other shows for Gun Talk, exactly. There's people who are geeks about guns. I've always said, as long as we're talking about it, I'm not a big gun person at all, period. End of story. But I wouldn't mind collecting, and I'm just telling listeners, like an M1 Garand.
Oh yeah,
from World War II, and whether it works or not, I don't care. It's just like a mantelpiece.
Exactly.
Just go in the man cave.
Yeah, I have 2 real rifles that I usually take to the range, an AR-15 and that 9130 Mosin, but I have a replica M1 Garand that's non-firing, but it has a working bolt. You can pull it back. Unfortunately, there's no ping, but it's a great wall hanger. I don't have it hanging on my wall right now, but it's a good little piece. Rifle collecting is fun.
I can totally see how it is.
It's like owning a piece of history. So
and that's why I would like the M1 Garand. It's not because it's a firearm necessarily. It's because it's a piece of history. Same reason I have a DeLorean, piece of history.
Yeah, and
it's cool.
Patton said something. It was like the greatest battle implement ever put in, combat history or something like that
Yeah.
back in the day, because it really was. I mean, semi-automatic 8-round gun versus a 5-round bolt-action rifle, that one will win
It
9 times out of 10.
was a very solid, respectable, tough tool that definitely served its purpose and arguably
Put hair on your chest every round you shot.
won the war.
Yeah.
Freed
that's it.
6 million people out of concentration camps.
Little World War II fact that I just want to throw in here. The M1 Garand actually was first supplied only to the Army when it was first mass produced, and the Marine Corps, when they were fighting in Guadalcanal, actually still had to use I think the number is 1930, but I may be wrong, Springfield bolt-action rifles. So they were kind of like the redheaded stepchilds in the beginning, but at the same time they were Marines, so they didn't care.
Well, I can already tell that all this extra 5 or 6 minutes on gun talk is going to go on the podcast. Don't be offended at all. So I'm going to do it. This is going to be really.
Dare I say, don't get triggered.
Don't.
Very funny. I got the jokes.
You got the jokes there. So I'm going to do something really slick here.
Okay.
And I'm going to do like an edit point on the fly, which if you're listening to the broadcast, you won't hear me saying any of this. But if you listen to the podcast, as if you're listening, obviously you're hearing it right now. If you're listening to the podcast, you're not going to know. So Dimitri, you're into EDM. Do you produce any EDM?
Dimitri's my brother.
Dimitri.
Don't worry, man. My mom and dad still get that wrong to this day. If I had $1 for every time that happened, I wouldn't be here right now.
Did you ever have any pets?
I had 3 dogs at one point. One passed, but now I have 2.
And did your parents ever toss the animals' names in there when they were trying to call you? My dad just goes, John, Dan, Goldie, Kitty.
All of our
Whoever's
dogs
up there.
All of our dogs were and are girls, so it's usually pretty easy for them to switch up the distinctions.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
What was that edit point you were getting to?
We're already in the edit point, brother.
Oh, okay.
So if you produce any EDM, where can people go to maybe listen to it? Do you have any blogs that you're associated with?
Yeah, okay. So here comes the shameless self-plug, right?
It's not shameless because I'm telling you to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm asking you. You don't have to. You can just say, turn this mic off.
No, yeah, of course. I actually DJ my own show called The Broken Matrix over at the student-run radio station Coog Radio. That's at the University of Houston, not to be confused with KUHF, but you can follow us at _Broken Matrix on Instagram, at The Broken Matrix on Twitter. And basically what I do is me and my partner, his name's Abhishek, also known as his stage name Hypno, quote unquote, and mine's Lord Niko, quote unquote. We spend 2 hours every Friday from 3 to 5 during the school semester, DJing electronic music, specifically house and techno. And over the summer, I've been doing a little side project called Summer Sessions. That's just basically the same thing, just not live. It's a recorded podcast, but you can catch that at soundcloud.com/Coog Radio, and you can see all of my most recent mixes of the techno music on the...
That techno music.
Yeah, all those damn kids and their computer sounds.
Their computer dibble-dips and bip-bip-bip-boops.
Yeah, that's basically my dad whenever he hears me practicing in my room or anything along those lines. Listen to that garbage? And it's like, it's not the only thing I listen to. I just really, really like it.
Niko, that's awesome. Thanks for being on Geek Therapy Radio.
Thank you for having me on again. Geeks Unite.
Geeks Unite, that's right. I'm not sure if that's trademarked. I need to check it out.
That needs to be the next t-shirt, I think.
You know what? We're all geeks about something. I think that's the motto. We're all geeks, or geeks are sexy, whatever. That's going to do it for Geek Therapy Radio this week. Niko,
yes,
one more time, thank you for being on.
Thank you for having me.
And share the show if you like the show. You're listening to it right now on a podcast, whatever link you have listening to it right now. Share that with your friends if you dig it. Be the good in the world. Let's spread some more joy in this world. Let's not be the people to tear each other down.
Amen.
Preach.
Preach
and
the truth.
Let's be the good. Let's make, at least we can make our local world immediately around us and the relationships around us a little bit better, a little bit more pleasurable, a little nicer, just more joy. We worry so much what's happening nationally, internationally, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you can actually affect the world immediately around you by just not being such a sourpuss and being a good person.
Just don't be a jerk.
Don't be a jerk, and equally as importantly, treat yourself well. Be good to yourself. Engage in your geek hobby. Do something you might have a hobby that you fell out of a while back. Get back into that. Just spend 5 minutes, like I always say, just 5 minutes playing Legos or whatever you used to do. That'll bring you some joy. But until next time, I'm Johnny Hamburger, your mental curator. I can't talk. Your mental curator. You've been listening to Geek Therapy Radio. Have a great week.